So, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good. So, I put you all on your mute. Sorry. So, if you would like to speak up, you can unmute yourself, actually. So, we are still waiting for a few people. So, if you would like to, you can start meditate your own. Maybe shamatha is good. So wait for a few minutes more, then we're gonna start. So good afternoon again. Thank you so much for joining this Saturday afternoon, or maybe Saturday morning in your time. So how is everybody doing? I hope you had a good understanding or good time with Ethan's first class on Tuesday night. So today, this is my framework of the day. First, we're gonna practice together this Tonglen meditation. Some of you might be really unfamiliar with this technique, so it's nice to practice together. And then I would like to discuss one question with you, which is what's your personal experience with Tonglen? Maybe comparing with loving kindness meditation. So it doesn't have to be I don't like it or I like it. It's like a quality. Maybe you feel the difference between two meditation techniques. And we can discuss about it a little bit. And after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, so to say, leap from course 2 to course 3, which is really we are entering into this realm of non-duality. There is no more you and me. It's really we are becoming interdependent. That talk a little bit. Then after that, we are going to continue for second and third question, which Ethan asked for this week. So, good? Okay, so let's do it. So let's start with shamatha. First, we're gonna do shamatha for a couple of minutes. Settle down our mind and body. Then we're gonna do this Tonglen. I will guide step by step. So we are starting Tonglen. So the first step is connecting with bodhicitta. So this is something preliminary to get into this practice. We connect our mind in a really vast space. It's something like it's no longer you, your heart, body, mind. Everything is so open, and you feel this whole universe, all this environment, just almost like leap into this whole universe, opening up everything and be aware everything, accept everything. No judgment, no thought, just experience. Now we connect with relative bodhicitta for a minute or two. And here, it's more like a relative level. We feel this heart mind, the warmthness, so warm, but not attached. Maybe you can feel with your heart center, with your palm. And there is a example of you can have this memory of something as if your heart is open up right this moment. It doesn't need to be traumatized memory, but something so you wish you can help. The flash of memory. Your heart is so tender. And it's a quality of almost like invisible open heart surgery. Tender, gentle, so full of love. Step 2. Mindfulness of breath with texture. Here we start using a bit of visualization and shamatha together. So we use our body, but not solid body, more like Ethan was using the word coreless body. Almost like body as an energy and mixture with your breath. First, paying attention to your breath. This time, inhale and exhale both. With the inhaling, you visualize you inhale all this darkness or polluted airs or sufferings, something you want to remove. Those air quality goes into your body. You inhale everything. And those negativities don't stick to you. Because your body is almost like light or just consists of energy. There is no place that those negativities stick to. So once you inhale all these negativities, you can process them and then transform to good vibes. So as you exhale, imagine that you're breathing out something bright, clean, relaxing, pure, nourishing air. So body is almost like a pure energy, holographic, no core, always vibrating. And into that space, we inhale polluted energy. And instead, we breathing out, exhaling the positive energy, clean air. So we make this system of inhaling polluted air, exhaling clean air. Step 3, accepting and sending while working with people, starting from you. So this third stage, we are going to focus on the real recipient of your Tonglen. We can start from each own situation. We all have this negativity, dark moment, sufferings, pain. So imagine that we inhale all these smokes, darkness, pain, and offer, exhale, good energy. If a thought comes and your mind starts wandering, focus on your breath. Now pick up somebody whom you know who is suffering. Maybe the disease, or maybe family situation, something directly connected to you. This person you really would like to help. Inhale this person's suffering. And breathe out with happy. Maybe you can imagine that this person smiling or being happy. Inhaling this sadness or claustrophobic, something, fear, so much obstacles. Just removing all this energy into your colorless body. And transforming to clean, cool, very healing breathe. And maybe you can imagine this person's happy face. You don't need to analyze the situation. With each inhalation, accept the difficulty of that person. And with each exhalation, send them whatever they need. Step 4. Universalizing the practice. You keep maintaining this inhale-exhale cycle. Now visualize this universal situation, all this suffering beyond any individuals. Say, if you were working on some patient which has a really difficult disease, you can expand this Tonglen to the people who had the same disease. If you have the person who has struggled with the financial situation, you can expand your practice to the all people who is suffering with poverty. The people whom you don't know. That's okay. You can generalize to maybe the local people, maybe to this country, maybe other countries. Or maybe just small family members. Inhale with the sufferings. Exhale with the happiness. Feel compassion. Come back to your awareness. Come back to the body. Completely open awareness. Thank you. So I would like to open up to the first discussion part. which is, please tell us your personal experience of the Tonglen, and maybe you can compare it with the loving kindness meditation experience. Everybody is now on mute, so it's popcorn style. So anybody can start.
Share something. I had practiced Tonglen several years ago after reading a book, and I found it helpful, but it didn't stay with me. I didn't feel a draw to continue to do it, and I set it aside. And when I practice it now, I notice for me it takes more effort than the loving kindness meditation. I noticed some resistance to starting it. I think purposefully calling up a difficult emotion, they come up often enough on their own, so inviting them in seems to take some effort. But I actually notice during my non-meditating time that the Tonglen, it occurs to me to practice off the cushion, whereas the loving kindness, that did happen somewhat, but I think maybe the Tonglen more so.
Thank you. Yeah, in a way, the Tonglen is this long session is good with a group of people because we sort of peer pressure as well as the energy of, how do you say, invitation to get into this mode is much easier to do that in the groups mode, at least for me. So.
I have a couple years experience doing it with my teachers, Mingyur Rinpoche and Ethan. So it's not new to me, but it's different than the love and kindness. It seems more strenuous. I feel like physically, I feel almost like I'm hurting after Tonglen. I don't know if I'm overdoing the breathing, but I physically feel like my abdominal area is like hurting after I do Tonglen. And I don't get that with the love and kindness.
Yeah, one of the thing is important aspect is you really don't want to store that negativity in your body. That's why we try to, how do you say, imagine that our body is just energy, not the place to store anything. It's almost like it's sort of, how do you call it, very flexible, and there is no core to it. So.
I'm pretty new to Tonglen. This was really my first experience doing it with Ethan on Tuesday, and I'm a classroom teacher coming off of a very intense school year at a kind of dysfunctional school, and so for me it was like actually incredibly cathartic, and I've been craving it over the last few days, like wanting to do it after having such an intense experience on Tuesday. And I found myself I don't know if any other people like work with either kids or people with trauma, but having experienced, you know, a lot of people are writing now about teachers experiencing secondhand trauma. I found myself breathing in like the images of students with whom I had, you know, a lot of difficult moments over the course of the year, and then breathing out. I was dealing with 8th graders this year, and I used to have 2nd and 1st graders where, you know, you have difficult moments, but you get a lot more love back in the moment, and it was just incredibly healing for me. So I found it much more, the personal dimension of it felt much more like real or meaningful, like to me than the loving kindness, or more immediate, maybe I should say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'll say something. This is my also first experience with Tonglen. I think I've read about it in the past and maybe tried it on my own, but I don't think I really set the framework of starting in a really open place. And one thing that this has really helped me with is realizing how guarded I make myself, how closed off my heart space is on a day-to-day basis. And for me, it's really been helping me recognize that and try to open up more, more with that type of open-hearted energy. And I also find it much more intense, like all of you guys have mentioned, than the loving kindness. It almost feels like loving kindness to me was almost like a 2-dimensional feeling, where this is almost 3-dimensional in some way I can't quite articulate, but it feels much more intense for me. So it's been really eye-opening. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I can say something. Can you guys hear me?
Sure.
I have experienced Tonglen before. A few years back, I took a course very similar, I guess, to this one, like kind of an online course that Pima Chodron was offering. And so that, I think like some other people have mentioned, maybe before that I'd read about it a little bit and kind of tried it, and like it was so hard and unnatural and just felt very, it feels very counterintuitive to breathe in negativity. And I know on Tuesday night, Ethan spoke a little bit about, or there was I'm sure there are other yoga teachers, but that one of the yoga teachers had mentioned about the whole idea of, you know, this breathing in, you know, and feeling all this. And yeah, you always hear so much about, like, you know, breathe in and all the goodness, right? And then you give that goodness back out. So I agree with all you guys. Like it is very intense. I find it to be very intense practice. But with that said, like so many other people mentioned, I feel like it's easier to reference in everyday life. And having done it before, like this being kind of a second go around for me here, I feel like, you know how things like process, like I feel like the way I feel about Tonglen right now is the way I want like the Yogacarya to feel, and maybe like 2 or 3 years, like just for it to all kind of process and sort of sink in. So I think it's a really great practice. I love it. I feel it's intense, but so good. And like you were saying, Callie, so cathartic. I mean, so cathartic. And I feel for you being in the classroom. Like I've been there myself too. And it's tough, you know, it really is. But having this, I mean, I wish I'd known of it then, you know, like when I was there, I think it would have helped a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. So one of the Pema's talk a long time ago I heard was some of her students told her that breathe in with like a really claustrophobic, dark energy. And then in this case, this person imagined that her body becomes like a dragon and breathes out with this silver not the fire, okay? Silver, beautiful stream of energy. So something like that. So it depends on your, imagination. You can play with that, I think. Well, that's a side note, and it's a really intense practice. And then regarding the everyday life dimension, we will learn the spot Tonglen on the spot. So instead of doing this lengthy process, we open up our heart and really doing this minute or two of Tonglen on the spot in daily life. That's a really useful and portable tool you can learn. So it will be introduced in this course too. No. So again, thank you so much for doing this practice. It's really intense and sometimes physically really tiring. But you really have to take care of yourself. If your health is, or psychological health is not good enough, it's a little bit negative, I would say. So just mindful about that too. So I just would like to speak a little bit about this non-duality aspect. So congratulations for coming to course 3. It's really leaping in a way from this Hinayana, self-liberating mode, to really expanding this awareness to the whole sentient being. So as you may all know, the example of Avalokiteshvara, who is a real, so to say, whale bodhisattva, the spearhead of, I'm not going to be enlightened unless everybody does. So I will wait everybody to be enlightened. Then I'm going to be enlightened. This, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, 2,600 years ago, this disciple of Buddha, he was so, aspired to be a helper to others. So he postponed, or she, according to some tradition, Avalokiteshvara is a woman. But this person decided to postpone his own enlightened mode. So the story goes is the Avalokiteshvara was so heartbroken to see all the misery of the world. So he felt so sick and so sad. His body is shattered into the 1,000 pieces. So again, of course, it doesn't want to be an end of the story. So all the gods and yadams and asuras came over and helped him to reconstruct Avalokiteshvara. And, that's why he became like kind of superhero of the Buddhism world. Saint Assisi, maybe. Like all directions, the faces and 1,000 helping hands. You might have seen that statue of him, like all kinds of heads and faces. That way he can see all over this. And then he had this sadhana of helping hands. Well, that's a story of our ideal situation. But I think even me, there is a moment of Avalokiteshvara in daily life, or maybe at least once in my lifetime. You see this very misery of others, and then your heart completely breaks, and you really wish you are with this person. You want to be with this group of people to help and take the misery away. So it's something like you really wish you want to be in that moment. And it's no longer your ego. You want to be famous or becoming a savior. You just want to help. That stepping out and be with that situation. This is the moment of Avalokiteshvara in us everyday life. But it's kind of hard because we hesitate. And you don't want to be, let's say, hurt. You don't want to be misunderstood, or you're just shy away from that moment and go back to your hesitation behind the wall. So this Tonglen, in a way, it's deliberately taken down this wall between you and me. It's a sort of open up the space for non-duality. So that's one way. If you read the book of this Radical Dharma by Angela Kyodo, well, Ethan was quoting the page number 92, the warriors. So warriors meaning we are not going to shy away from our hesitation. We are stepping up, showing up to this situation, taking down this barrier. That way, we keep working on the situation. So that's the sort of core or principle of Bodhisattva warrior. Okay. Sorry, I just hear some noise. So I'm going to mute you all. Okay. So it's interesting to see working on this social injustice, social inequity, and systematic discrimination. We see them every day in our life. And so in a way, working on that situation, like, becoming activist, you don't have to be activist, but at least you are trying to be the side of social justice. You are in the part of this social equity, equal system. You are against this systematic discrimination. Every time we try to work on it, it's a bodhisattva's work. also, as Angela Kyodo says, everybody is not enlightened or liberated. I am not going to be liberated too, because I'm the part of this society, as well as I am the product of this society, as well as I am the part of the society. So both ways, I cannot just become bodhisattva, I'm enlightened, and say goodbye to everybody. I'm enlightened, goodbye. No. I just need to work on wisdom skillfully. That way, they are also enlightened. And they themselves has to work on that and their own enlightenment too. That way, I can go with them. So this, both ways. That's sort of, how do you say, the way it works for this bodhisattva non-duality world. Anyway, that's my sort of mini talk. And if you have any questions or something, please text, or there's a chat box. I cannot see the chat. Okay, here we go. Okay, so there is a question. I have just started doing Tonglen and listen to Ethan's guided meditation. It's helpful, but more emotional than that meditation. My dogs are barking. Okay. Yeah, it's really, could be emotional, for sure. Because in a Pema's class, the students, every student cry. And it's all right. Because it's really heartbreaking. So if it becomes too intense, I would say just going back to your breath, because you don't want to go to the storyline too much. That there is a tricky part, because once you get emotional and then the story goes on and on, you're going to the really deep sadness. And it's not really about you, it's about them, right? So we have to stop the own sad moment. It's okay to feel the sadness and you cry, fine. But you don't want to be just get to the spiral of emotion. Okay? Right, so I would like to proceed to the question number 2 and number 3, if that's okay with you. So discussion. I'm gonna unmute you all. So the question 2 is, when you think of the notion of dissolving boundaries between self and other, how does that sit with you right now? Maybe this is something Tonglen's experience, but I dare ask you.
I think that breaking down the walls that you talked about is probably critical for us to be able to connect with each other, connect with someone else's suffering. And I feel like that's what Tonglen is moving towards, but maybe not. But I just think it's, it moves us from ourselves, our own suffering, to being able to think about someone else's suffering and trying. I find it a little difficult because I'm thinking about someone else's suffering and I feel kind of helpless, you know, in some ways to help them. And I feel like all I'm doing is thinking about it. So I guess, you know, it's a little challenging for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think that by dissolving boundaries between us, I've been thinking about it as, instead of thinking of yourself as the only one going through a certain pain, I like the idea of thinking of everyone who is struggling with a disease, or everyone who's depressed, you know, that you're not the only one, or your friend isn't the only one who's having these issues, that we all have the human condition, and all have dukkha. So I think that maybe that's kind of how I've been thinking of that question.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I'll say something. I'm glad you brought that up. Is it Barbie or Barb?
Barbie.
Barbie, yes.
Barbie, okay. Because when I read the question, I thought, what does that mean, dissolving boundaries? I mean, but yet I find it very easy to connect with someone on a one-to-one basis and find that commonality and that shared suffering or shared issues or whatever. And so that helped clarify that for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. So in Pema's teaching again, you know, she has the personal interview. People would come with all this drama or stories, and then everybody would say, you know, I'm the only person just going through this. And Pema would say with her conviction, you are wrong. So, you know, everybody had their own unique experience, of course. But most of the time, we have this, you know, commonality, these sufferings. So it's not only you, it's not just you. And that way we can extend our helping hands as well, right? Because we understand. Okay, so if I may, a third question, any thoughts on the quote from Radical Dharma Ethan read to us? Basically it's a social justice, you know, how do we engage as a bodhisattva warrior? How do we, I mean, it's not just somebody is going to help you. it's not just you will help yourself. It's more like everybody has to work together. It's kind of a relational warriorship or relational, how do you say, movement. Does anybody have anything to say about this aspect?
Yeah, there are a few things I've been thinking about related to this, thinking more broadly about social justice and specifically about, as a white identifying person and a white presenting person, how this work relates to anti-racism work and standing up as an accomplice. And one thing that I found very difficult in our conversation about karma in one of the earlier courses was like thinking about, for me on a personal level, like working with the gap and knowing how challenging it is to change patterns of karmic behavior. And like feeling this tension between like knowing, for me, realistically, changing a pattern of behavior or a pattern of thought on a personal, just individual, habitual level is so challenging. And then knowing like that's not okay on a social justice level, that it takes that time, if that makes sense. So something that I found like very sticky to kind of think through, well, what does that mean? The other thing that I'm just curious about, especially as a woman, I have had a lot of issues with the warrior metaphor. Like I don't like it. I don't like that we constantly use this language that is traditionally male to represent showing up and to represent like courage. So I have been thinking about like the metaphor of like a woman about to go into labor as like the ultimate image of courage in a way that is genuinely embodying like peace and bringing forth goodness into the world in the face of like the greatest adversity or challenge. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I would be curious to hear if other folks have been experiencing any like reaction to the warrior metaphor.
I think there is no right or wrong answer to everything at this point. Then actually the warrior's analogy, the word is very provocative in many ways. And I don't know the correct answer to tell you. But my personal experience is like yourself. In the beginning, I have really reactionary, feeling about it. Like, oh, why? It's very brutal. And then I got the refuge name with a warrior in it. Like, ugh. But now I think about it, because in many ways this teaching came from the sort of nomad, like Tibetans, the society which is very predominantly, so to say, very male, I don't know, males dominant, or maybe the kind of a little bit of a warrior type of society, not sure. That's metaphor. And also the brutality, as it may seem, but this is about really how to really cut through your ego. And you just cannot say, massage bit by bit. Sometimes you really have to be strong enough to really cut through this ego. How could we do that? So maybe this is an extreme word of use, but we will see. Maybe we have to change. I don't know. And then about the karmic situation. It's very, I don't know the answer to it, because I also have the same kind of feeling about it. This is so complicated. You cannot just change the world. And so everything, so that way, in a way, it's so interdependent. Yeah. Anybody to add?
Oh.
Okay, so it's time is 3:06. So we need to close soon. Anything to add? Going once.
I would just want to add how beautiful the furniture behind you is. I've been looking at it the whole time. It's really pretty.
Thank you. Actually, it's came from Nepal, the altar.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. Good backstage, right? Backdrop.
Perfect.
Thank you. So anyway, thank you so much for joining this weekend. And then hope you can continue this Tonglen practice. If you like to do that in a group situation, you can ask your, quad people to do that. That way you don't feel alone. Okay? So
Thank you so
thanks
much.
again. And I will see you Tuesday. Thank you.